tried to handle the entire situation with honor, with integrity, with class, with dignity, and with professionalism, because that's who I am, and that's how I've always lived my life. If I had done this intentionally or unintentionally, I'd be the first one to step up and say, I did it. By no means am I perfect, but if I've ever made any mistakes in my life, I've taken responsibility for my actions. I truly believe in my heart, and I would bet my life that this substance never entered my body at any point.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Carrie Champion. That's Skip Bayless, and that's Stephen A. Smith. Major League Baseball has suspended Ryan Braun without pay for the remainder of the season for violations of the Basic Agreement and its Joint Drug Prevention and Treatment Program. Braun released a statement that read in part, I am not perfect. I realize now that I have made some mistakes. I'm willing to accept the consequences of those mistakes. 65 games, a little less than $3.5 million in salary, to be exact. Here's our question. Does the punishment fit the crime? Skip Bayless.
Carrie Champion, before I answer that, I'm going to shake this man's hand before we dive into this one.
Yes, sir.
To answer your question, no, the punishment did not fit the crime. Not under these circumstances. Not after Ryan Braun lied with all of his heart and all of his soul, the way I've rarely seen anyone this side of Lance Armstrong lie. Not after Ryan Braun attempted to destroy the life of this poor sample collector who merely did his job and didn't take the sample to FedEx quite on time on a Saturday night. Not given the circumstance of the Brewers have now collapsed all the way into last place in their division, 19 games out of first place. So this season is one big bust for Milwaukee. Not after Ryan Braun has just missed 27 games with a thumb contusion. So it's basically a lost season for Ryan Braun. I mean, to send him home for the last 65 games, that's punishment? That's more like a reprieve to me for this lost season, and he gets to start fresh next spring, when, in fact, after losing only $3.2 million in salary, 3.2 is all, he will then start collecting the guaranteed $122 million that the Brewers do owe him, which could go as high as $133 million over the lifetime of this contract. So, Stephen A., what just happened was baseball allowed Ryan Braun to be the first rat. I'm going to go rat here because he was able to plea out of a much stiffer penalty in favor of actually confirming the guilt of Tony Bosch and biogenesis. That's all he did, was acknowledge, yes, I did this, and he is guilty. And to be the first rat, baseball let him completely off the hook to the point that he didn't even have to, he wasn't even forced to really apologize. He went Jason Giambi and just said, I made a couple of mistakes, and this has been so hard on me and my family. Baloney. No, it's been hard on the rest of baseball and all the people you impacted around you. So, Stephen A., I'm finding it hard to appreciate this as punishment fitting the crime.
Well, I think that you're wrong. You're finding it hard to appreciate. I'm sorry, I'm finding it impossible. This man needs to be humiliated. He needs to be brought before everybody to have to give a specific apology, candid, in terms of fully acknowledging your guilt in all of this. Allow me to read this statement, and y'all can put it up. This is a quote from Ryan Braun. I'm going to read it because, to me, it's not much of a mea culpa. It's not much of an acknowledgement at all. As I have acknowledged in the past, I am not perfect. I realize now that I have made some mistakes. I am willing to accept the consequences of those actions. The situation has taken a toll on me and my entire family, and it has been a distraction to my teammates and the Brewers organization. Ryan Braun still hasn't acknowledged that he used performance-enhancing drugs. Ryan Braun still has not acknowledged that he has been a pathological liar. Ryan Braun has not acknowledged that he has been as sleazy as they come over the last couple of years, particularly as it pertains to the guy to handling the FedEx package and how you basically didn't even care if you had cost him his job. Anything to protect yourself. He went to extraordinary means. And if Ryan Braun, if there is a label that needs to be attached to Ryan Braun, it is simply this. He is the second coming of Lance Armstrong. When you think about Lance Armstrong and all of his perpetual and pathological lies and the way he tried to ruin people's lives and all of this other stuff. Ryan Braun is right there with them. This is who he is. Not to that degree, but only because he didn't have as much time to lie as Lance Armstrong had. But you are of the same ilk. You are of the same DNA. You have no credibility. You can't be trusted. And the fact that Major League Baseball would come to the conclusion that we're going to give him 65 games, which basically means a season where you already missed 39 games. You was on the disabled list for the last 27 games of the last month.
Yep.
But you basically missed 39 games this season. You ruined the Brewers' entire season this year because they're mired in last place after all of the distractions that they've had. And then on top of it all, you still in all, you're only allowed to miss 65 games. The 65 games goes through the season, which is basically a wash. But you're still allowed to show up in spring training next year.
Yep.
You're still allowed to play a full season next year. I don't care about the 65 games, Skip. What I care about is the fact that it doesn't go into next season. See, I believe that you should miss spring training. And I believe that even as the Brewers season starts next year, Ryan Braun should miss a few games so when I don't care if it's 5 games, just so when he comes back, the eye of the storm is on him.
Yep.
You don't get to sit back and chill in your mansion, your house, or wherever it is you're chilling at, away from everybody that you lied to. You should be made to stand front and center. That should have been a part of the agreement yesterday. You're going to show up on this press conference. You're going to admit right here on national television in front of a national audience what a lying scoundrel you are. And by the way, while I'm busy going off on people, this is the problem with Major League Baseball. This is the problem. This is the reason why the Ryan Brauns of the world are not only created, but nurtured and allowed to be the insidious individuals that they are. Do we have the tape, ladies and gentlemen, of the catcher from the Milwaukee Brewers in terms of his reaction upon hearing about Ryan Braun? Could y'all please show that for me? Please show that.
John, did you come here today thinking that Braun had never used PEDs?
Yes, I did.
And how do you feel now?
You know what? Hey, I still forgive him, man. You know? Hey, you know what? Made a mistake. A lot of people make mistakes. I'm not sitting here trying to act like I'm perfect. I'm not. Nobody in here, none of y'all are perfect, you know? So, hey, you know what? You made a mistake. I forgive him. Let's move on.
Right there. Mr. LaCroix, right there. That's the problem. None of us are perfect. None of y'all are perfect. Who said anything about perfection? Why do you have to be perfect in order to not be a liar? Why do you have to be perfect in order to not be sleazy? Why do you have to be perfect in order to really validate the kind of nonsense that came out of that dude's mouth? It's because of people like him. That guy right there, that a guy like Ryan Braun is led to believe that you can continue to do what you're doing because you know you're always going to have apologists out there at the end of the day backing you. I'm not saying you don't support your friend, your teammate, or whatever the case may be. I'm saying to you do that quietly. That certainly was not the time nor the place to articulate that kind of thinking. But it's because of that kind of thinking that you have so many baseball players that felt they could get away with anything.
Okay,
that's
but
what I
don't
want to say.
condemn LaCroix because he's a young player who was just supporting his team.
Really?
And he was saying he did make a mistake, but I forgive my teammate.
Right.
You can't condemn him along with Ryan Braun.
Well, I'm not condemning him to the same level as Ryan Braun. I'm simply saying you don't come out and talk about none of us are perfect. All of us make mistakes. You guys in here aren't perfect. That ain't the issue. The issue is your dude has walked around here for the last 2 years lying through his teeth and not caring who he stepped on to do it. It's one thing we can all forgive. I mean, you use performance-enhancing drugs, you hurt yourself, you hurt your own bank account. We can get past that. That's your career, not ours. The point is what he was willing to do to cover it up, to sanctimony. Did you see the statement, the press conference that he had a few months ago? Well, I'm completely innocent, and I know from my soul and the core of my being. What?
Right.
What did Ryan Braun should never believe? If Ryan Braun said the sky is blue, we need to look up.
Yep.
And double check that. He can't be believed for anything anymore.
Okay, so his ability to plea out of this and be that first rat will open the door for baseball to come down much harder on all the other players who allegedly were clients of biogenesis.
Yes.
Starting with a guy we're about to talk about, Alex Rodriguez.
That's right.
Okay, but big picture, is it fair to think that Ryan Braun will just be stained forever? Or do you think this will fade away with spring training and the sun rising next year? Will he be stained in fans' minds forever?
I think he will be. I think he will be. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, other players, whether it's A-Rod, it's Cervelli, it's whomever. Let's say it's these other players. What stands out about Ryan Braun is not that he used performance-enhancing drugs. We understand that that was prevalent in the sport of baseball to some degree. It's what he was willing to go through to cover it up. It's Lance Armstrong-esque.
Yep.
That's the difference. You see a lot of these other guys, they may have lied. They may have lied until they got busted.
You just didn't like the way he lied so convincingly. He was and demanding that people pay attention.
It was the sanctimonious way in which he did it, and it was the people he was willing to hurt. Yeah. You got a dude, I mean, you're a FedEx, I mean, you got to deliver a package of FedEx. This dude might not be making $75,000 a year. You were willing to cost him his job just to say, when you already had millions in the bank. It's just that kind of stuff is what America really, really frowns upon. You want to use performance-enhancing drugs? We don't approve of it. We don't like it. It's not allowed. You got to do your time if you get busted. We can let go of that.
Yep.
But not this stuff.
Okay. I do like your idea of forcing him into a mid-season spotlight return.
That's right.
But just knowing all the facts, the way this man lied, the way nobody in, I think, baseball, maybe outside of Palmero, has ever lied. I wanted to see him gone for a whole year next year. Okay. Again, that would allow him to come back in another spring training, but it'd be a whole year from now. I wanted to see it hurt his pocketbook a little bit more, take next year's salary away.
But you said he had to be baseball's rat.
He was. It did open the door. Somebody had to confirm this, to say, yes, Bosch is guilty.
Sure.
Because if everybody fought this, if everybody is appealing, and I assume everybody's trying to plea out of their deals as we speak, somebody had to go down first. The first domino had to fall. In being the first domino, he was pretty shrewd. He's been shrewd all along. But he was so shrewd that he got off pretty lightly here.
Well, let's move on. You said he had to be baseball's rat. You said he was a scoundrel. Very passionate response. Our Baseball Tonight analyst, Kurt Schilling, said he defended Braun for years, and now he's calling him out and other players connected to the scandal.
This turns